Dancing at the Pity Party, a Dead Mom Graphic Memoir by Tyler Feder. For my mom, obviously. An introduction. My family. Spencer, the youngest, thoughtful, wise, independent. Steve, the dad, driven, passionate, emotional. Cody, the middle one, hip, charismatic, sensitive. Tyler, me, neurotic. Rhonda, the mom, meticulous, comforting, dead. My mom used to tell me I had Minnie Mouse eyelashes. She taught me to speak my mind, to arrange my belongings in rainbow order, and to spread the cream cheese all the way to the edges of the bagel. She was gentle and silly and annoying and dorky, and she didn't take crap from anybody. In 2008, the summer after my first year of college, she was diagnosed with cancer. By spring break my sophomore year, she was dead. Not to be melodramatic, but it was the worst. Our culture has a bizarre relationship with death. We don't like to talk about it except in bland platitudes like thoughts and prayers and over-the-top horror movies. Death is sad and sometimes really scary, but oscillating between euphemisms and torture porn does not a healthy relationship with mortality make. Hello, my mom died. What now? So as a frizzy, anxious 19-year-old who suddenly found herself motherless, I felt, as my therapist put it, like I was on an iceberg out to sea. I was rudderless and raw, and the worst part was that no one wanted to talk about any of it. My dad and two younger sisters were definite allies, but we were all so stuck in our own grief that none of us could see the forest for the trees. My friends were sweet, and my professors were incredibly understanding, but the deadline extensions and rousing midnight games of bananagrams were only Band-Aids. There was nowhere to put down the heavy weight I carried invisibly. I didn't want pity, and I definitely didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. Have you ever comforted someone about the death of your own parent? It's very awkward. All I wanted was to be able to mention offhand that I missed my mom and to not have it be a whole thing. I also really wanted to be able to make jokes about it and have people laugh without holding back. I still find myself searching for a book or movie or website or, I don't know, snap story that cradles my grief without smothering it. This book is for my mom and for me and for anyone struggling with loss who just wants someone to get it. Chapter 1, Ma. First of all, let's get one thing straight. My mom was the coolest. She wasn't some sad sack in a sickbed waiting to die, even when she was a sad sack in a sickbed waiting to die. It's so easy to picture how she would respond to things in my life even now because she left such a permanent mark. My mom was an inch shorter than me at 5'7". She had smiley brown eyes and a dark pixie cut with a signature swoopy cowlick over her forehead. Everything about her face was pointy. Her nose, her sharply arched eyebrows, the thin lips she didn't like. She had a very endearing gap between her front teeth. Her arms were soft and freckly, and she had an extremely graceful hands. She barely wore any makeup and dressed in a familiar boring uniform of jeans, solid color shirts, and comfortable shoes. She usually smelled like one of the millions of hand creams she applied religiously, almond or apricot or cocoa butter. Anytime I told her she smelled good, she'd say, "Thanks, it's my natural aroma." She was quiet and polite in public, with a sense of humor that could best be described as sneaky. Her specialty was walking down the grocery store aisle with a very straight face, then doing a blink and you'd miss it bunny hop around the corner, and continuing down the next aisle like nothing happened. Once, she was watching Saturday morning cartoons with me, and an episode of Rocko's Modern Life made her laugh so hard she fell off the couch. She teased me for the way I pronounced vegetable. And she did a hilarious impression of Jan's embarrassing cheerleading routine from the Brady Bunch. When I was a little kid, she'd soothe my boo-boos with the kiss vacuum she made up. Sometimes she'd give me a hug, snuggle up by my ear, and whisper, "Aren't you glad I'm not?" And then she'd say the name of my friend's mom, a perfectly nice, normal lady who had the misfortune of being our code for someone else who isn't me. When she was plotting to order pizza, she'd say, "I'm in the mood for something round." She was not particularly touchy-feely, but she held my hand every time we crossed the street together, even when I was a teenager. Also, she loved to wink, and somehow it was never creepy. Magic. My mom hated making phone calls, but loved thrill rides. Once, on a family trip to an amusement park, my mom insisted on riding this terrifying-looking thing called the Mighty Axe. None of us wanted to join her, obviously, but she didn't care. We watched in horror from below as she nonchalantly blew us kisses. I thought she was a hero. I also thought she was going to die. I was right, just off by a few years. As I got older, she began dragging me onto the thrill rides with her. I inevitably end up having fun, but that did nothing to lessen my fear beforehand. I spent so many teeth-chattering hours in lines with her, trying to talk my way out of riding. One of her tried-and-true sayings was, "When Mommy's around, nothing bad can happen," which she continued using long after I stopped calling her Mommy. My mom had a very particular set of skills that I found endlessly comforting. She was excellent at Scrabble, and even better at Pac-Man. And she had a seemingly encyclopedic knowledge of TV commercial jingles from the 1970s. She had beautiful, spiky, distinctive handwriting that I miss so much. She was probably the most precise, detail-oriented person I've ever known. I'm pretty nitpicky myself, but I could never match her precision. Whenever I'd ask her how she got that way, she'd tell me she learned it in mom's school. My mom's precision extended to every part of her life, including some very specific food preferences. Loves key lime pie, vegetarian faux buffalo wings, milky coffee, caprese of all sorts, mushroom everything, calamari tentacles. Intense dislikes, tea, cheesecake, or any sweet cheese thing, sugar in coffee, celery, all olives, strawberry jam. I have so many memories of eating yogurt or pudding as a kid and handing the cup to her when I was done so she could scrape the last bits into one last spoonful for me. My mom was also an absolute fanatic about eyebrow maintenance. For a long time, she insisted on tweezing mine herself. She was very artsy growing up, and in high school, she and her friend were named most creative in their class. At home, she always seemed to be in the middle of some kind of creative project, like reupholstering the cushions without a pattern, addressing envelopes for a school function in Gothic calligraphy she taught herself, or rearranging the living room for the 10th time. Every Halloween, she finagled our costumes out of felt, pipe cleaners, and clothes we already had. No matter what costume our little brains dreamed up, she'd make it happen. The best part was how she'd do it all the night before Halloween while we slept. She'd say, "I'm gonna be an elf tonight," like in The Elves and the Shoemaker, and creep down to the basement with her hot glue gun and Carly Simon CD. As Jewish kids, it was probably the closest thing we had to Santa Claus. When Cody and Spencer were in preschool, our mom won the JCC Star Volunteer Award after she single-handedly made all the decorations for their themed fundraiser events. Her specialty was those face-in-a-hole photo op things. Do they have an official name? She'd draw them on foam core, and the preschoolers would go wild. I loved to stay up late watching her make the decorations. The aromas were intoxicating. Markers that smelled like the color lemon, yellow, or cherry red, except turquoise, which was mango for some reason. Rubber cement, so many Sharpies. To keep the marker ink from getting all blotchy, she'd color everything in long, straight strokes overlapping just so. I could still hear it if I closed my eyes. The Feder girls' birthday parties were always a hit with our friends and their families because my mom planned them to a T. She'd start brainstorming months in advance and make magic out of construction paper and sprinkles. Even though we had all our parties at my grandparents' barn and served Sam's Club sheet cake, people were into it. One of my favorite memories of my mom is a little morning routine we developed when I was in 6th grade. It was the only year I was in middle school while both my sisters were still in elementary school, and I had to get up super early. She'd gently creep into my bedroom and slide into bed next to me all warm and groggy. We'd snuggle and giggle for a few minutes like we were at a slumber party, and then she'd kick me out to start getting ready for school. It used to drive me bonkers, but now it feels like a one-way train to Metaphor City. My mom was mysterious and reassuring and so much fun, and I would give anything to climb back under the covers with her. Ugh. People, real and fictional, plus one cat, who remind me of my mom. Who? Elizabeth James, the mom from the 1998 Parent Trap. Why? She's elegant, creative, and a little mischievous. The actor, Natasha Richardson, died the same week as my mom. Who? Duchess from the Aristocats. Why? She's gentle and comforting with 3 babies. I'm Marie. Who? Jamie Lee Curtis. Why? Same spunky, short-haired vibe. My mom would have been so cute with this haircut. Who? Princess Diana. Why? She had a quiet warmth that put people at ease. Also died young. Who? Tina Fey. Why? Her dark eyes, pointy face, and sharp wit, especially in old Second City photos, OMG. Who? Mary Poppins. Why? She's no nonsense and silly at the same time. My mom's favorite movie. Next chapter is called Uh-Oh. If you want to find out what she's saying uh-oh about, you'll have to check out Dancing at the Pity Party.